Welcome into the Inside Scoop. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm your host, Josh Newberg. Today is Wednesday, April 16th, and it is a special day. Why is it a special day? Because the transfer portal is open for the next 10 days. Today is just the start of the spring portal window, and that's what we're going to focus on today's show. But before we get going, you guys do me a favor, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. This is the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube, and we want you to be a part of it. All right, today's show, we are talking Texas Longhorns. We're going to talk Michigan, Georgia. We're also going to have On3's Pete Nakos with some initial portal information. But first, these are the biggest developments on the first day of the opening of the college football transfer portal. And this year's spring transfer portal window is sponsored by Teamworks Intelligence. Their mission is simple: more hits, fewer misses, and player evaluation. So let's get into these developments. Up first, transfer portal's biggest name. It's less than a week after Pete Nakos shook up the college football world. Nico Imaliava is in the portal. A week ago, last Thursday, Pete Nakos reported that Nico was just in negotiations. There was a lot of pushback on that report, but now he's officially in the transfer portal. Talk to Pete. It'll be in this show, but some of the contenders have already bowed out. Now, initially, there was thought to be 3 teams involved, and already UNC and Tulane is out. UCLA, though, they are still holding strong on its offer to Nico, which is significantly less than the reported $4 million that he's asking for. So we'll see if UCLA ups that number. But remember, the relationship between UCLA and the Imaliavas might be a little strained. Nico's brother, his younger brother, flipped from the Bruins to Arkansas on signing day of this year. So we'll see if that affects the recruitment of Nico from the transfer portal. We'll just have to wait and see. But right now, I don't even want to call him a front runner. But right now, it seems like UCLA is the team being mentioned with Nico the most. Speaking of former 5-star QBs, we got another one on the move. The one-time Miami commitment, one-time Gator commitment, Arizona State transfer, now UGA transfer. Yep, I'm talking Jaden Rashada. Remember that name? He's on the move again. According to Pete Nakos, UConn and Tulane are the contenders. We know Tulane was named with Nico, but now they are no longer considered interested. Maybe they are turning their attention to another former 5-star recruit. Speaking of former 5-star recruits, we got a pair of former top 5 wide receivers back in the portal. I'm talking Micah Hudson. He already left Texas Tech for Texas A&M. Now he announced he is leaving A&M. A return to Texas Tech is not being ruled out. We could see the other former 5-star wide receiver. It's Jonte Cook. Remember, he signed with Texas, left this offseason, announced he was attending Washington, but that never happened. He's now back in the portal. Now, there's various reasons why these guys are transferring from the schools that they sign with. But out of high school, they were considered top 5 at their position. Is there anybody out there willing to give them a chance? I think there will be. All right. Big name, small school. This is always fun in the transfer portal when we see these guys at smaller schools being courted by big name programs D1. We got one happening right now. Teams like Michigan, Colorado, Alabama, USC, UF, Penn State, and more are recruiting a player from South Dakota. We're talking 6'7", 315-pound offensive tackle Joe Cotton. That is the name to know when it comes to smaller school names being poached by top-tier D1 programs. We see these names pop up every now and again. It's always fun because they were never really recruited out of high school. They didn't have a big announcement in their gymnasium. They weren't broadcast live on the On3 Recruits channel. But all of a sudden, after playing a couple years at a lower level, you got top coaches in America blowing up their phones. It has to be a crazy experience if you're one of these guys. It happens in a blink of an eye, but it's happening right now to Joe Cotton. We'll see where he ends up. All right, the last topic I want to talk to you guys about is more big names to come. Remember, today's just the first day that you have to put your name in the portal, not the last day by any means. So 2 guys I'm keeping an eye on, and right now I got no reason to believe they're leaving, but quarterbacks Avery Johnson and Sawyer Robertson. Avery Johnson is at K-State. Sawyer Robertson is at Baylor, and they're just names to watch right now. I have every belief to say that they're going to stay where they're at, but we know there's a big dog out there looking for a quarterback, and its name is Tennessee. Will Tennessee be able to get their hooks in on an Avery Johnson or a Sawyer Robertson? Those are two quarterbacks I'm watching. So those are the biggest developments on the first day of the portal. I mean, those are my biggest developments. You guys, tell me, what are your biggest developments from day one of the spring transfer portal window? Let me know, comment section below. The transfer portal is officially open, and this year's spring transfer portal window is sponsored by Teamworks Intelligence. We got the great Pete Nakos, NIL transfer portal expert, here with us, and we're going to talk some transfer portal intel. It's Wednesday. The transfer portal is open, and we got the busiest man in the office sitting next to us right now, Pete Nakos. He's here for a good time, not a long time. But Pete, you're here at On3 for a long time. Congrats to you for the contract extension. You're doing great work. Let's get into it. As I said, today's Wednesday, portal's open, and Nico Imaliava is in the portal with a no contact tag. Now, originally, I thought this was his father, Nick, saying to Pete Nakos, do not contact us. But then I realized this is for all colleges, actually. And why would Nico be in the portal with a no contact tag? To me, it means he knows where he's going.
I don't think we have a full, clear picture yet where Nico Imaliava is going. I think that going in with the do not contact tag kind of symbolizes that they want to keep this on the DL. Obviously, Steve Wolfong and I continue to hear that UCLA is a player in this recruitment, but that is not a done deal just yet.
Who else is playing around in this recruitment? Originally, we kind of heard Tulane. We heard USC, but we talked to Scott Schrader at We Are SC, and he's kind of downplayed that. So outside of UCLA, I mean, do we know of any other teams active with the Imaliava right now?
Yeah, so reported in the last few days that North Carolina and Tulane are kind of pulling out. They had both kind of entered contact with the camp. And they're going to move on and go in different directions. From there, I think it's kind of wide open. I mean, Ari Wasserman reported this morning in a story that he could see like a Maryland or a Syracuse kind of making sense down the line if his price drops, and I could definitely see that with Nico right now. But yeah, it is not the clearest picture right now.
It was a messy situation. Is the hesitation on college teams the price tag or the way that it all went down?
I think it's a mix, and I think it's a case-by-case thing right now, school by school. Some schools feel that Nico can really elevate what they do on the football field, and that's why UCLA is still very much in the picture. And then there's other people who just can't pay what he's looking for. I think what his market value is right now compared to maybe what the asking price is, there's definitely some differential, and that is making an impact on the kind of schools that are in the mix.
Okay, well, it only takes one, so we'll see what happens with Nico. But on the flip side of this, does Tennessee now become a major buyer in the quarterback market?
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee definitely wants to add someone to that room. It remains to be seen if it's going to be a well-known starting quarterback who's going to walk in and play right away, or if it's going to be a depth piece that, can add to a room with George McIntyre and Jake Merkinger.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, we'll just see who hits the market, what kind of pieces fit. Let's turn the page and talk a little Colorado football right now. Is Coach Prime going to be active in this portal window?
Yeah. My guy Steve Wolfong has kind of been all over it. He called me this morning and said, hey, Colorado is definitely – they got their spring game this weekend. They're going to make a point of emphasis to bring in some targets. So don't know all the names just yet, but fully expect Coach Prime in Colorado to have a busy couple weeks here.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, back to quarterbacks. There's some rumors swirling that Avery Johnson, maybe a Sawyer Robertson at Baylor, Avery Johnson's at Kansas State, are names that could hit the portal. And obviously, if we saw Avery Johnson hit the portal, I mean, that's going to be big. Sawyer Robinson as well. Where are we at right now with those guys and their ability or inability to hit the portal?
Yeah, this is definitely a situation where I'm not going to name any quarterbacks, but I think Tennessee is really trying to do their due diligence and see who would want to be at Tennessee and then who doesn't want to be at Tennessee and what they would have to do to get someone who wants to be at Tennessee. And that is not, that is not a position I think any school wants to be in right now, is trying to figure out who's going to be their starter in 2025.
Yeah, not during the spring portal, or not after spring ball has already ended as well. So that being said, are there any lower level quarterbacks that could become really hot commodities during this transfer portal window?
Are you saying like lower level guys who can move up?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Gio Lopez went in this morning. He's a South Alabama quarterback, and I really think that it's trending in the right direction for North Carolina. I see Bill Belichick getting that done. And then, the other thing too is Josh, Jaden Rashad is still out there.
Yeah.
And there are some G5 programs who are going to lose quarterbacks in the next week that are going to need a quarterback, and Jaden Rashad is going to be sitting there. I don't know which one it's going to be. There's a lot of schools being named to me right now, but I think that we could see some movement with the Rashada camp and him landing somewhere.
All right. Now, we know Miami and Georgia are going to be buyers in this market. Do you think that they can find some help to kind of finalize these rosters? I know, Georgia's looking at a couple things to tweak at the very top of their roster, Miami as well. Is there anything in the portal for them?
I think we're going to see it fully develop in the next 48 hours. I wouldn't say that there's a South Dakota offensive tackle, Joe Cotton, who's getting a ton of interest right now from Michigan. That would be the right kind of fit. And then I think Georgia has a couple edge rushers they want to go after. I'm not 100% sure if all those options are in the portal just yet.
Yeah, and we know Miami's looking for some offensive weapons as well, especially at the wide receiver position. No names. You don't have to give me a name, but are you tracking? This is the last thing I got for you, Pete. I know you got to get back to work. Are you tracking a Nico-type name hitting the portal this week? This year's spring transfer portal window is sponsored by Teamworks Intelligence, and their mission is simple. More hits, fewer misses, and player evaluation. In the transfer portal era, data-driven recruiting isn't just an advantage, it's essential. And Teamworks Intelligence empowers your program to navigate the transfer portal with precision while simultaneously elevating your game planning and self-scouting capabilities. The same advanced analytics platform trusted by NFL teams to make multi-million-dollar personnel decisions is now available to elevate your college program's evaluation process. For athletic directors, general managers, and coaching staffs, Teamwork Intelligence delivers game-changing efficiency by streamlining the evaluation process. Instead of spending countless hours reviewing film, traveling to scout prospects, your team can assess more players with greater accuracy in even less time. This means maximizing recruiting efforts within the new budget constraints, giving you the competitive edge needed to build championship caliber programs. Don't just survive the portal era, dominate it with Teamworks Intelligence, the new standard in player evaluation.
I don't have that right now.
You don't have
but
to
things happen. No. I honestly,
you can give me names.
I'm not going to.
We can just speculate.
No. I hear you, and I see where you're coming from. I just don't. No, not just yet.
All
but
right.
We'll see. We'll see.
Right. Well, I got your tweets on alert. I'm ready to go. So it's going to be a busy week. Pete Nakos. He's going to be with On 3 for a while. He's here with us just for a minute. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Let's talk some Michigan Wolverine recruiting. We're going to focus a little bit on the transfer portal, and this year's spring transfer portal window is sponsored by Teamworks Intelligence. Got EJ Holland here from the Wolverine. What is Michigan's biggest need now that the portal's open?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple of glaring needs. You have to start along the offensive line. That's been Michigan's MO, smash, being able to have one of the best offensive lines in the country. When Sharon Moore was the position coach, obviously transitioning over to head coach now, but when he was the offensive line coach at Michigan, the Wolverines won back-to-back Joe Moore Awards, best offensive line in the country. Last year, they took a step back. There were some struggles up front, particularly at tackle. Obviously, they went out and landed two premier tackles on the recruiting trail in Andrew Babalola and Ty Haywood. Haywood not on campus yet. Babalola already making some noise. But they want, offensive line, you don't want necessarily a true freshman starter. You want a guy with some experience, especially now that the portal is the biggest thing in college football. So they're going to be aggressive in trying to add an offensive tackle to come in and compete and start right away. We already reported this morning, and the portal is going to move quickly. I mean, you have 10, 11 days here to make something happen. So Joe Cotton out of South Dakota is definitely a target that's popped in early on. Obviously, we'll be tracking names throughout the day and throughout coming days, but he's definitely one that they're already in on early and have already had discussions. There's familiarity with his agency. Michigan has a good working relationship with them. So I think that overall offensive tackle is probably the biggest need. When it comes to other positions they're going to target, wide receiver, You look at last year, Michigan obviously had some quarterback issues, but the wide receiver room wasn't exactly helpful either. There's a need for talent. Last portal window during the winter, they added a couple of guys, Donovan McCulley from Indiana, Anthony Simpson from UMass, but not exactly game-breaking type of wide receivers. So I think they could look to potentially spend big on wide receiver. They almost landed Skylar Bell from UConn during the winter period. He elected to stay at UConn after some credit issues at Michigan. It'll be interesting to see if he jumps back in the portal. I could see them potentially making a run at Micah Hudson, who entered this morning, former five-star recruit. Michigan's wide receiver coach Ron Bellamy is a close friend of his mentor, Margin Hooks. They actually played together in the NFL, so a connection there. And then some other needs, punter is definitely a need. They lost their starting punter from last year, and obviously quarterback. Obviously the big talk is all about Bryce Underwood, and that's great. He's been fantastic, but Michigan needs depth in the quarterback room. This spring practice period, they've only had two healthy quarterbacks, one being Underwood, the other being Jaden Davis. They added a transfer during the winter portal period in Mikey Keene, but he's been injured. We don't know an exact timeline of when he'll be back and fully ready. So Michigan could explore adding another depth piece at the quarterback position, and that'll be something interesting to monitor. Who's available? Will they spend very much there? What type of quarterback can you get during this window? They're definitely not going to go after a Nico type of guy, but they do want to add some depth there to help Bryce Underwood along and just make sure that, if something were to happen there, they have another serviceable guy.
Yeah, all this talk, though, about Bryce Underwood, about a potential quarterback transfer. What about Jaden Davis, who's currently sitting there on the roster? Is there any fear that maybe he could hit the portal?
I mean, potentially. He has been competing. I think he showed a willingness to be competitive with Bryce Underwood this spring to try to make his own mark. At the same time, I think Jaden Davis was a little more highly touted as a recruit than he probably should have been. I think maybe you could, if they do add another portal quarterback, especially if they add maybe a younger portal quarterback, maybe you could see Jaden Davis hit the transfer portal. I think he knows the long-term solution at the quarterback position is Bryce Underwood. I think they, again, would probably like to keep him because the quarterback room has no depth right now, and he's been the only guy going through spring practices aside from Underwood. But that's certainly a possibility. I mean, I wouldn't rule out Jaden Davis hitting the portal. I still think he has a lot of things to work on. He has some physical limitations, being a shorter quarterback who's not exactly mobile. He still has a hitch in his throwing motion and kind of a longer wind up, which obviously isn't ideal in general, but definitely not ideal for a shorter quarterback who's not super mobile. At the same time, he's a high IQ kid. He knows how to manage an offense. He played at Providence Day, has gotten really good quarterback training from guys like Will Grier and Cam Newton. So he can be a safe, serviceable option, which Michigan would like to have in the quarterback room. But in today's era, especially with how touted he was as a recruit, I think guys want an opportunity to play right away. And I'm not sure there's a path for Jaden Davis to really be the guy at Michigan as long as Bryce Underwood's on the roster.
All right, let's talk a little high school recruiting now, and we got quarterback drama. Brady Smeagol is on campus this weekend, but could Michigan be on the verge of another quarterback commitment that's not named Smeagol?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting situation going into the weekend. So our national analyst, Steve Wilfong, put in an on-3 prediction for Nathan Bernhardt, who's a 3-star quarterback out of Ohio, an Ohio State legacy. And the reason I didn't join Steve is not because I don't think Michigan leads there. They absolutely have the inside track for Nathan Bernhardt, and he could be on the verge of giving the Wolverines a commitment. But a couple of different factors here. One, like I said, Bernhardt is an Ohio State legacy, right? So if Ohio State jumps in the picture, that could go the other way very quickly. The other thing is, I think Michigan wants to be a little patient with Bernhardt. Maybe in just coming days, not necessarily long term. They could very well end up with a commitment this month. But they do have Brady Smeagol coming in for an unofficial visit this weekend, and they want to see how that goes. And they're kind of polar opposite quarterbacks, right? Brady Smeagol is a guy who was ranked really early. He's dropped a little bit in the rankings, especially on three, mostly because he's older for his grade. He's more of a high floor quarterback, not a lot of ceiling there, but he's accurate. He has a decent arm. He's the son of a coach. He can command an offense, kind of similar to what I was saying with Jaden Davis, that type of level of quarterback, just better frame, taller guy, 6'4". So, you're getting a safe depth piece that can be a starter later in his career. On the flip side of the coin, Nathan Bernhardt is a very, very intriguing prospect, not as polished of a passer, but big frame, 6'6", 225 pounds, really good arm, not the best throwing motion, but that's getting cleaned up with private quarterback trainer Brad Mandler this offseason. He's a guy that even at 6'6", 225, you think, man, that's probably a statue pocket passer. He's not. He rushed for more than 1,000 yards last season. He could easily be a Division I level tight end or defensive end too. He's a really great athlete. So when you look at Nathan Bernhardt, you look at what he can be, upside, developmental guy. When you look at Brady Smeagol, you think, high floor depth piece, safe take that can add to the quarterback room after Bryce Underwood. So you could make an argument for taking the high floor guy. You could also make an argument for taking the high ceiling guy. And I think Michigan just wants to weigh its options and see where things stand with Brady Smeagol. And the door has opened there for Michigan because Washington was trending for Smeagol. It looks like they're going a different route at quarterback. So, again, that door is open for Michigan to make a move with Smeagol this weekend, but they also know that Bernhardt is a heavy lean as long as Ohio State does not offer. So really interesting time here at the quarterback position.
Yeah, maybe by the end of the weekend, we'll see how this one plays out. But let's move on to a big-time running back target, Javian Osborne. He'll be in Ann Arbor this weekend. Last weekend, he was at Notre Dame. We know he has a top two of Michigan, Notre Dame. He has a decision date as well, and that's May 3rd. Right now, all signs point to Notre Dame having the lead heading into this big visit weekend at Michigan. EJ, what's this battle coming down to between Notre Dame and Michigan, and do you think that Michigan can come from behind and land Javian Osborne? This year's spring transfer portal window is sponsored by Teamworks Intelligence, and their mission is simple. More hits, fewer misses, and player evaluation. In the transfer portal era, data-driven recruiting isn't just an advantage, it's essential. And Teamworks Intelligence empowers your program to navigate the transfer portal with precision while simultaneously elevating your game planning and self-scouting capabilities. The same advanced analytics platform trusted by NFL teams to make multi-million-dollar personnel decisions is now available to elevate your college program's evaluation process. For athletic directors, general managers, and coaching staffs, Teamwork Intelligence delivers game-changing efficiency by streamlining the evaluation process. Instead of spending countless hours reviewing film, traveling to scout prospects, your team can assess more players with greater accuracy in even less time. This means maximizing recruiting efforts within the new budget constraints, giving you the competitive edge needed to build championship caliber programs. Don't just survive the portal era, dominate it with Teamworks Intelligence, the new standard in player evaluation.
Yeah, I mean, this one's coming down to NIL. I mean, I might get in trouble with some dads for saying that, but you know, when you look at recruitments like these, it's pretty clear what the issue is. And not only that, I talked to Maurice Osborne, Javian Osborne's dad, and he was really honest and candid with me when we did our interview. And he told me, look, it's really coming down to the business side of it. And when you look at Notre Dame, they've been very aggressive in talking upfront money and NIL and what they can offer right away. And I don't think Michigan has taken that approach early in the cycle. And, you know, as much as I love to take jabs as Notre Dame, that's not really a knock on Notre Dame. A lot of teams are doing that. Miami's doing that. Oregon, Georgia, several top-notch college programs are talking NIL numbers, exact NIL numbers right now, early in the cycle. Michigan is staying patient. They want to see how things kind of develop from a revenue sharing standpoint. They want to see how things develop just with the court rulings. They want to see how much they're going to spend in the portal. Their general manager, Sean McGee, coming from the NFL, has more of an NFL salary cap model strategy. He wants to balance a budget while building a roster intelligently. Does not want to talk exact numbers right now. And look, they didn't talk exact numbers with Jackson Cantwell, and they didn't talk exact numbers with Savion Hyder, and it's not like Michigan's not talking NIL. That's not what I'm saying. They are. They're giving guys ranges. They're talking about their plan for the future. They're talking about revenue sharing. They do comparisons with positions and what pros make at that position. So, they are talking NIL. They're just not giving you an exact dollar figure. So if Michigan doesn't do that this weekend, which I'm not sure they will, especially with Savion Hyder still on the board and the strategy they've employed, even with Osborne having a commitment date for next month, I think they'll lay out a plan. I think they will give him a range, but will that be enough to overcome Notre Dame, which is giving out exact type of figures? I'm not so sure. I still lean Notre Dame, but we'll see what comes out of that recruitment. But yeah, that's an interesting one. We talked about a precious recruit in Smeagol, and now we're talking about an interesting situation here in Osborne as well. So a couple of really intriguing storylines during the spring game from a recruiting perspective.
In a really important weekend ahead for Michigan fans. Go check out the Wolverine. You guys, we only scratched the surface on the transfer portal, high school recruiting. EJ Holland, you guys do a great job over there. I think all Michigan fans should go read it. Let's talk a little Texas Longhorn recruiting. And the transfer portal opens on Wednesday, but Texas already got going. Emmett Mosley, Stanford wide receiver, transfers to the Longhorns. Now, he was in that 30-day window because Stanford fired their coach, so he didn't have to wait until the opening of the portal. But Justin Wells from Inside Texas, when the portal opens on Wednesday, what are Texas's biggest needs?
Well, they just fielded one yesterday, like you said, in the aforementioned Emmett Mosley the fifth. He's a guy that's going to fit really well in their scheme. He's good in 12 personnel. He's a hell of a blocker. He catches everything. He'll move the chains on third down. But I think if the right wide receiver were to hit the portal, they would take one more. They feel good at receiver right now. But if there is a particular guy or two that were to hit the portal in the next few days, I think they would look at one more just to get some experience in that room, especially because they've had some guys dinged up this spring. DeAndre Moore's not playing. Ryan Wingo's not playing. And so I think it would just be from a number standpoint. But wide receiver is definitely in a better place now with Mosley. Kicker. They're going to need another kicker. It's as simple as that. They're going to have to get a guy with experience. Bert Auburn had 2 really good first years at Texas. Last year, he had a really hard time the second half of the season, missed some really key, crucial kicks, kind of got the yips. Will Stone took his place in the Cotton Bowl as the place kicker. And so they will get another kicker. I think we might know who it is as well. And then tight end. They're going to have to get another tight end. They're going to have to get a guy with experience. Like Jatavian Sanders and Gunnar Helm took all the snaps in the last 3 years. And Jordan Washington is an up-and-comer that could probably start in August. But he's dealing with a collarbone injury, and they need numbers there. And they need a veteran guy. They've got Spencer Shannon. They got Will Randall, but they really need a veteran guy. And don't be surprised if true freshman Nick Townsend, who did not enroll early out of Spring Duquesne, don't be shocked if he gets on the field as a freshman just because he has got probably the most college-ready body on this in this 2025 class. So they're going to probably get another one at tight end. They'll look at maybe another offensive lineman because I think they're going to lose a couple.
Yeah, why not?
And so they'll look at one more defensive tackle. They really like the trio they brought in Brevard, Shaw, and Hero Canoe, but they're looking at one more, even though they really like what Alex January's doing. They love what Justice Terry's doing and Myron Charles and those guys. But they'll look, and that goes into the category of best player available. Sark will always look for the best player available, even if they don't necessarily need them. If the new college football playoff taught us anything last year, it's you need depth to win this thing. You're playing in virtually an NFL-sized season. The team that has the best, healthiest depth is going to be the team that wins these things. And so they'll take whoever they can. Don't be surprised if they look at some other positions depending on who that best player available could be. But right now, it's shoring up wide receiver, kicker is the next most important, tight end, and potentially an offensive lineman and maybe another defensive tackle.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot, but really Texas is just kind of tweaking that top of the roster, trying to get any upgrades they can. I mean, when we say needs, these, it's relative term to recruiting and other things. I mean, these aren't really needs. It comes to just finalizing this roster. All right, let's switch gears. Let's go to high school recruiting. Over the weekend, 5-star linebacker Xavier Griffin was on campus. USC commitment. We're going to talk to him. Justin, USC fans get upset when I talk about their commits taking other visits. Trust me. But we're going to do it anyway. Xavier Griffin, I know he's taken a Tennessee trip. He's been some other spots, but he shows up at Texas, solidly committed to USC. But what was your takeaway from this trip?
My takeaway with Xavier Griffin was that what we're seeing in this cycle with Texas is they are getting more of your high-end elite guys across the country on campus to see what all the excitement is about. You're looking at a program that's been in the playoffs 2 consecutive years, just signed the #1 class. They got a ton of momentum, and they are being very picky in this 2026 class with who they take and who they don't. And so that Xavier Griffin's the type that maybe 10 years ago, Texas doesn't get him on campus.
Yeah.
Now he's curious. He wanted to see what Texas was all about. He knows guys from the area that they're going to be. They're planting a flag in Georgia. We saw what they did last year in that state. There's even more guys in the Peach State that they're going after in this cycle. And so, Griffin wanted to see what Texas was about. He wanted to meet the coaches, meet the staff. He had never been to Austin before. He wanted to kind of suck it all in. And him and his mother had a great time. They thought it was a great place. I'll say this. He's 6'4", 205, and he's 16 years old with a size 14 shoe. So he is not going to be playing linebacker in college. He is going to be an edge, and he's going to be a really good one. But I don't think Texas moved the needle. I think they checked the box that he wanted. He wanted to be seen. He wanted to see what was about. He told us that he could potentially set an official visit, but he wasn't really sold on that either. And the biggest takeaway from it might be the part that the USC fans like the most. He is, like you said, he is solid to USC right now. He is not wanting to really look at any other schools for presumably for a flip. He's actually going to be back at SC this weekend. So Lincoln Riley and those guys get a chance to keep him even more locked in. But I think USC is doing a great job in this cycle, which we've seen this before. They hit really early and then they just got to hold on until signing day. I think Xavier Griffin and USC are in a great spot right now. I just think he was hitting Austin just to hit Austin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's no shot against USC fans. I mean, we talk – if a 5-star is on the move taking visits, I don't care where he's – it's Jeremiah Smith. We report on Jeremiah Smith. Hey, Jamie French took plenty of visits. We felt the need to report on him. Hey, I promise you this. If Dia Bell steps foot in Athens or LSU during the summer, I'm going to talk about it. And I'm not saying he's flipping, but – we're not just going to ignore the visit, right? Like, we can't just ignore the fact that Texas got top USC commit Xavier Griffin on campus. We're just going to talk about it. I want to get your opinion on it, and then we're going to move on to top 100 DB. Samari Matthews, it sounded like things went really well with him. Saw Steve Wiltfong dropped a story on Inside Texas this afternoon.
Yeah, so my colleague at Inside Texas, Charlie Williams, one of the best in the business, up-and-coming recruiting reporter, after we talked to Samari Saturday, let me tell you, and I remember you and I had this conversation at the exact same time last year. And I said, you know what? This kid, Jamie French, he shows up in Austin and it was just different. Like the way he spoke, they were there for 3 days. Like when Jamie left Texas in that April trip, we knew he was going to Texas. Samari Matthews was the exact same way. And it even happened the same way. A lot of times, the Texas player staff, they'll kind of usher the players off onto a bus or, to his cart, and we're not able to talk to them. Last year, Jamie French made them stop so that we could speak to him. He said, I want to come talk to these guys. Samari Matthews did the exact same thing. He sat out there and talked to us for 15 or 20 minutes. He was there for 3 days. And so this one's one that Mark Orfe, hiring Orfe, the new cornerback coach, was huge in because he had already had a previous relationship from Rutgers. He said the second Texas offered him, he set his official visit on the same phone call and set his unofficial visit on the same phone call. And everything he wanted to see was even better. It exceeded expectations. This is a top 70, top 80 player, one of the best corners in the country, probably be the number one, probably the number 2 or number 3 corner in the state of Texas if he was. He's long. He's got Clemson, Florida State, and South Carolina official visits in addition to his Texas OV this in June. He's not really feeling the this in-state North Carolina Tar Heels. He loved Mac Brown. He actually had a really good relationship with Mac Brown, but wasn't as fond of Bill Belichick. And so he's looking in a different direction. Right now, Samari Matthews at Texas just makes it, there's a lot there that makes a lot of sense. It's just a great match. He fits what they want to do from a field corner and a boundary corner standpoint. He's got the versatility to potentially play some nickel down the road, and he understands that versatility is going to help him at the next level. Samari Matthews in Texas, we had already talked to him a half a dozen times. We had caught him at OT7, always talked up Texas. This was different. His family loved it. He had a smile from ear to ear. He spent a lot of time with us before he took off. Samari Matthews in Texas, I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, keep an eye on it. All right, Justin, before I let you go, what other recruiting intel do Texas fans need to know? What are you chasing right now?
Well, I'm chasing a few things. We're still kind of wrapping up everything from over the weekend. But there's a few things of note. The main one is Amari Latimer. Now, I say that because Amari wasn't on campus. KJ Edwards was. That's the number 4. I think he's the number 3 running back in the On3 industry rankings, tailback in the country out of Carthage. Him and Texas are in a beautiful spot. And it was only furthered with him and Chad Scott finally meeting the new running back coach. And I was curious who's going to be the other one. And so I reached out, and it looks like Amari Latimer is going to be the guy, the guy they're kind of focusing on for that second spot. They want 2 running backs in this class. Amari had already built a relationship. We're talking about the Sandy Creek tailback. He had already built a relationship with Tashard Choice. And so this was another guy that Chad Scott had to come in and pick up the pieces. And he's done that. He's got an official visit set in Austin for June 13th through the 15th. But look, you're going to have to watch Miami. Miami's doing a great job there. Tennessee is pushing there as well. But KJ Edwards in Texas, that if I felt good about Samari Matthews, I feel amazing about KJ. The next running back, I think, is going to be Amari Latimer. That's something else we're kind of chasing there, but I think Texas is getting some momentum there. Look, they look incredible for John Turntine. He was there. Felix Ojo's been there 200 times. Turntine's been there 201. I think those are going to be your 2 offensive tackles in this cycle. Kosiak Paula in Texas, that's another one, the top in-state linebacker. They love him. Penn State's probably their toughest competition there. Mason James, that's a new name for a lot of Texas fans. That's the wide receiver out of Norman North High School. And the biggest takeaways we had from him were he's very similar stylistically to Dalen McCutcheon, who is another guy that they watched. That's a freshman on campus that has already been turning heads. We got some assurances from the family that he would not be going to Oklahoma, which I thought was kind of funny. But he's got some other schools in the mix, Washington, and so they're going to have to fight there. But they think he's a fit. They love what he can do on the inside and outside. So Mason James making his first trip was big. Haywood Howard Jr. Look, our man Shea Dixon on the LSU On3, he put in a prediction today for Howard to LSU, and I wouldn't doubt that one bit. But after talking to him over the weekend, I think that recruitment still has a ways to go. Texas is going to bring him on campus as well for an official visit. I posted all that update at InsideTexas.com. But that's another guy we're kind of chasing as well. We love where Texas and Chase Calicut, the safety out of North Shore, are headed, but Michigan has jumped into that one strongly. Ole Miss has also got a shot there as well. Dre Quinn from Norcross, from Atlanta Greater Christian, he came on campus. That's a long edge. Texas needs at least 2 in this cycle. They love Richard Wesley. Dre Quinn would be another compliment. There's just so much stuff there that we're still going through, and we've had like 9 stories posted from the weekend intel in the last couple of days already. Come see us at InsideTexas.com, and I'll give you the rest.
Yeah, it's been a really busy time over on the site. Now that the transfer portal's open, it's only going to get busier. Justin Wells from Inside Texas, thank you for dropping by the Inside Scoop. We're talking Georgia Bulldog recruiting here with Rusty Manziel, and we are going to talk transfer portal. And this year's spring transfer portal window is sponsored by Teamworks Intelligence. Their mission is simple: more hits, fewer misses, and player evaluation. And the edge position for Georgia is a need in the spring window. What's going on at the edge position? Do you think they can fill this need, kind of tweak the roster?
I think that's a very if I'm outside looking in, I'm taking a long look at Georgia. I think they lost a combined almost 1,000 snaps with Damon Wilson, Michael Williams, and Jalen Walker. Those guys are no longer there. 2 of them going to the NFL. Damon Wilson moving on. So I think Georgia's got an easy sell. Gabe Harris, who probably likely will be the starter, he was out all spring with shoulder surgery, so that position is wide open. I think Georgia is going to be very aggressive in the edge market.
Yeah, and they lose Damon Wilson in the winter window, which was a loss. But do you consider any of these other transfers from the spring to be quote unquote losses?
Branson Roberts is a guy that I think had a lot of potential. He just couldn't stay healthy. He went in as of this morning, former 5-star running back out of Mississippi. I think he was number 2 rated running back in the country in the class of 2022. He just couldn't stay healthy at Georgia. Still a really good player, but I think the emergence of Bo Walker, the true freshman, I think he probably put some worries into some people that are in that room. And I saw him Saturday. I've been covering him now for 3 years at Cedar Grove High School. This is a kid that kind of got swept under the radar, but I'm telling you, man, he had a huge spring for Georgia. He had a great spring game and probably most likely put some people in the portal.
Yeah, those freshmen step on campus and things get spooky for some of those veterans.
Like, wait a minute, where did this guy come from? And next thing you know, somebody's taking minutes, and next thing you know, you're somewhere else looks attractive. So Branson Robinson, really good player. You just want him to stay healthy. I'm sure he'll get a lot of interest.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to that edge position. Are there any names that you're tracking right now in the portal? I know it's early. We got another 10 days or so to go, but any early names at the edge position?
Well, obviously it is very early. I think the guy that went in last night, or Pete broke that he was going to go in, is Bo Atkinson, the 6'6", 260-pound defensive end out of North Carolina. Here's what I like about him: size. I know Georgia covets size. They want guys with length, and they want guys to be able to play with their hand down and to be able to stand up. There's only so many of those guys. So early on, he kind of fits, what Georgia likes in that position. I do expect many more guys to go in. Some guys were rumored to go in this morning. We'll see what happens. But Bo Atkinson out of North Carolina, I've also, had some texts this morning. Maybe Ohio State's going to look there. So has a very good resume, but there's only those 6'6", 260-pound guys that can stand up and play in. He'll be attractive to Georgia, I'm sure.
Yeah. Is there any other positions you think Georgia needs to address?
Yeah, I think, if a defensive lineman goes in, you never can have enough of those defensive linemen. Georgia likes to rotate those interior guys. I think that's a position. If somebody goes in with the right mindset, they think can fit the mold they like, I think they'll take a defensive lineman. I do think running back, you see Branson Robinson leave. Nate Frater is the guy. You look at Bo Walker, Chauncey Bowens is a guy that had a great spring game. Hasn't really done a lot yet in Georgia. Roderick Robinson has been hurt. He's out again this spring. So I do think running back is the position that Georgia's going to take a long look at. I think they're going to look for somebody with experience, maybe somebody that, catches the ball in the backfield, maybe that James Cook type, the guy that can hurt you in the pass game as well. So we'll see what they do. But I do think, my opinion, the priority would be edge number 1, running back number 2, and or they get a defensive lineman. And you never know, Josh, something like this, you never know who's going to go in the portal. Like an NFL draft board, you might have all your boards set up, and next thing you know, wait a minute, we got a chance to take this guy. If it's the best player available and you got a scholarship left, maybe they take somebody that's not a position need because they think they're just better off with this player than they are without it.
Yeah, that's the crazy part about the NCAA transfer portal. It's not like NFL free agency where going into the free agency window, everybody that's available. Well, with the transfer portal, you might be 3, 4, 5 days in, and all of a sudden a guy hits the portal that you had no expectation would. So you got to keep your eye on this thing. Now, let's go back, flash back to the winter portal. Georgia, they racked up. They got Zachariah Branch, Zion Branch, Noah Thomas, among others. Some of these guys were participating in the spring. What did you see from them?
Well, first of all, I think, you look at Zachariah Branch. He comes in. He was highly rated out of high school, one of the top wide receivers in America. I think you saw on Saturday why. This is a guy that can win off the line of scrimmage. This is a guy that can make you miss in sudden, what I call sudden speed, make you miss in a phone booth type guy. And, I like what I saw out of him. He's definitely what I expected from him. I think his brother, to me, I kind of didn't know enough about his brother, who's a safety, comes in, but having a chance to watch him play on Saturday, I told Jake Rowe of Dogs HQ Saturday, I said, this guy's a lot bigger and faster than I thought. he's here because he can help Georgia. He's not here because his brother was a package deal. They're brothers. They want to play together. But Zion Branch is a guy that's going to play for Georgia. I really like what I saw out of him. Noah Thomas, unfortunately, got kind of banged up there a little bit early on in the game. Got a chance to see him warm up, but he had a great spring coming out of Texas A&M, another 6'5" guy, wide receiver that James Coley was very familiar with. So Adrian Maddox, a safety out of UAB, Jaden Harris, a guy out of Miami, transferred out of Miami. So they got some safety help there too as well. We'll see where those guys go and how much they can help. But I do think the Branch brothers and Noah Thomas are three players that Georgia brought in to play right now, and they're going to.
All right, well, a couple hits from that winter portal, it looks like. Let's see what they do in the spring. Dog fans, talk to Rusty and I. What do you think the biggest needs are, and who is your most important target right now in the transfer portal? Let us know. Let's talk some Alabama football. A-Day is over. Let's get into this roster. I want to talk 2025 season. I'm going to ask you two questions, Cody Belair, On 3 National Scout. I want to know about a 5-star breakout player, a former 5-star in high school that you see breaking out for Alabama this year, and also a former 3-star recruit that you think is going to outplay that ranking.
Yeah, Josh, I want to preface this by saying that this is a player that has definitely seen the field. I mean, this is someone that played over 400 snaps last season, but to me, former 5-star Quay Russaw is about to be the most feared player on this Alabama defense. Jihad Campbell moves on to the NFL, and Campbell was more of a box player compared to Russaw, who's going to be more of an edge defender. But the thing that makes both of these guys so valuable is their athleticism and their versatility. Josh, let me tell you where Quay Russaw took at least one snap last season. Left end and right end in a 3-point stance. Left outside backer, right outside backer in a 2-point stance. Will linebacker, Mike backer, slot corner, and free safety. All at 6'2", 245 pounds last year. He can get after the quarterback. He can drop into space. He picked off passes last year, and he forced a fumble. This guy can genuinely do it all, and I think Alabama is going to take the leash off this year and let this guy wreak havoc all year long for this defense.
Yeah, I remember that recruitment. I mean, an absolute huge win for Alabama, and since he arrived, he's been a little quiet, but we'll see. This could be the year. It should be the year. Now, let's get to that former 3-star recruit. There's not many on Alabama's roster that you think is going to outplay that ranking. Inside Scoop listeners, I've got to tell you about Game Time. Now, here's the scenario. You've been rooting for a team your whole life, right? They finally have a good season. You want to go to the game with your friends and family, only to find out completely sold out. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down as the game gets closer to the kickoff. With killer last-minute deals, all-in pricing, and views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of the Inside Scoop. Now, with summer approaching, there is nothing better than catching an afternoon baseball game. And Game Time has the best last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Game Time picks make last-minute ticket buying easier than ever by highlighting the best deals in the stadium. So here's what we're going to do. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, though, create an account, use redeem code INSIDESCOOP, INSIDESCOOP, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Yeah, Josh, I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the ball. And I think this player was sneakily one of the best players on the roster, and he only started in half the games last year for Alabama, and that's safety Bray Hubbard. Last season, Josh, Bray Hubbard was 5th on the team in tackles and led the team in interceptions. Again, he only started 6 games for the Crimson Tide last year. He likes playing downhill, he triggers to the football, and he has excellent instincts in the run game and the passing game. Plus, he has the range to play as a true center fielder and work sideline to sideline in the back half of the field. I believe Bray Hubbard is going to become a household name, not just in the SEC next season, but throughout the entire country.
That's really interesting. All right, Alabama fans, talk to Cody and I. Who do you feel is going to be that breakout player for the Tide in 2025? Let us know.